Welcome back, everyone. Today, we are going to take a deep dive into the world of oil markets.
Absolutely.
We're going to be looking at economics and geopolitics,
Yeah.
all wrapped up in one.
It's always exciting.
It is exciting.
Yeah.
So we're taking a look at a recent Reuters article from January 27th, 2025.
Okay.
And it's fascinating how oil is affected by seemingly totally unrelated things.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And how these seemingly unrelated things can then rivel through the economy and even into international relations.
And I think the thing about oil is that it's such a globally traded commodity. And so anything that's happening anywhere in the world can have an impact on oil prices. And that's what makes it so fascinating to track and to try and understand.
And we're all affected by it, too, because we all buy gas or we buy products that are shipped using,
Absolutely.
oil and gas.
It's the lifeblood of the global economy. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so many things rely on oil.
It really is. Okay, so the article starts off talking about just generally how oil prices were kind of wavering that day. Brent crude was down just a bit.
Yeah.
And West Texas Intermediate, WTI was down a bit more.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you look at the start of any day in the oil market, and it's rarely just kind of a flat line.
Right.
There's always these fluctuations based on news and sentiment and all sorts of, all these different things going on.
Yeah. And this day was no different because suddenly the US and Colombia struck a deal.
Right.
And the deal was about Colombia accepting deported migrants from the U.S.
Interesting.
I mean, you might think, what does that have to do with oil?
Right.
But as soon as this deal was struck, some of the worries about oil supply disruptions immediately eased a bit.
And that makes sense because Colombia is a significant oil exporter to the U.S.
Right.
And so if there's any concern about political instability or anything that could disrupt those exports, then that's immediately going to have an effect on oil prices.
So suddenly, immigration policy is now affecting oil prices.
It's all connected.
Yeah, but even with this deal, the market was still nervous.
Right. And I think, there's always this underlying uncertainty in the oil market because there's so many factors at play. And so even when you have a positive development like this deal, there's still this kind of nervousness about what could happen next.
And you know what else is kind of interesting is that one of the analysts that they quoted in the article, Bjarne Shieldrop, he actually used the word bullying.
Oh, wow.
When describing how certain, powerful figures might try to influence the oil market in the future.
That's a strong word.
It is a very strong word.
Yeah.
So, it really does make you wonder how vulnerable the supply chain is and how these prices are going to be affected.
And who those powerful figures are, exactly, and how much influence they really have.
And speaking of powerful figures, in walks former President Trump.
Okay.
And he's calling for OPEC.
Yeah.
To cut oil prices. And his reasoning for this is he wants to put pressure on Russia to end the war in Ukraine.
Okay, so using oil as a lever.
As leverage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he even said that the war would stop right away.
Wow.
If OPEC took this action.
It's a bold statement for sure.
Yeah.
And it really highlights the way that energy is so intertwined with geopolitics.
Yeah.
It's not just about economics, it's about power and influence and all those sorts of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder if maybe that's what that analyst was referring to.
Yeah, possibly. When he used that word bullying,
yeah,
it makes you wonder if he had this kind of situation in mind.
Yeah, and then he went on to talk about sanctions on Russia, and then he also proposed meeting with Putin.
So a lot of political maneuvering going on.
Yeah.
And all of this, of course, has an impact on the oil market.
Yeah, so we've got political maneuvering affecting energy prices, affecting international relations.
It's a complex web.
So this deep dive is already super fascinating.
It is.
But what are the analysts saying about all this?
Well, there's a lot of different perspectives out there, as you might imagine.
Yeah.
John Driscoll, for example, suggests that all this back and forth, between Trump and OPEC and Russia, that it might actually be setting the stage for some kind of negotiation, which could lead to short-term market volatility.
Okay, so that volatility we saw in the beginning could actually get worse.
It's possible.
Before it gets better.
Yeah, because anytime you have uncertainty in the market,
yeah,
it tends to lead to price swings.
Okay.
And Driscoll also pointed out that Trump might be trying to, boost U.S. oil production to compete with OPEC on the global stage.
Oh, so classic economic competition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The U.S. wants to be energy independent, and they want to be a major player in the global oil market.
Mixed with international intrigue.
It's a potent cocktail, that's for sure.
It is potent, and that's just one analyst.
Yeah.
What are some other perspectives that we're seeing?
Well, Goldman Sachs, for instance, they believe that despite all these sanctions, Russian oil production won't actually take a major hit.
Interesting.
Yeah, they cite a couple of reasons for this. One is that there are still non-sanctioned ships
Oh, okay.
that are transporting oil.
So they're finding ways around it.
Exactly. And then there are also buyers out there who are willing to look the other way on some of these sanctions.
For a discount.
For a discount, exactly. So there's always someone willing to make a deal.
Always someone willing to make a deal.
Yeah. It's the nature of the market.
And we all need oil.
We do.
But J.P. Morgan, they're urging a little more caution.
Right. And they highlight the sanctions on a significant portion of the global Aframax fleet.
What is that?
So Aframaxes, those are mid-sized oil tankers
Okay.
that play a key role in transportation.
Okay.
And so when you have sanctions on these tankers, it makes it more difficult and more expensive to move oil around the world.
So suddenly this one little detail that we might not have even thought about is a big deal.
It can have a ripple effect.
Yeah, it really can. And then, to add even more uncertainty into this whole mix, we get some weaker than expected manufacturing data from China.
Oh, interesting. So now we're bringing in the global economic picture.
Exactly, because suddenly this is suggesting that demand for energy could soften.
Which could potentially lead to lower oil prices.
Wow, so much going on.
It's always something with the oil market.
So what can we even take away from all this?
Well, I think the main takeaway is that oil prices aren't just about supply and demand anymore.
Okay.
It's not just about how much oil is out there and how many people want it.
Right.
It's about geopolitics. It's about international relations.
It's about personalities.
It's about personalities. It's about all these different factors.
So who's tweeting what?
Exactly. Yeah. It's a very complex picture.
It really is. So we've learned that oil prices are influenced by a lot more than just supply and demand.
Yeah, I think that's a key takeaway.
Okay.
And I think it's important for people to understand that because it affects all of us.
It does.
In so many ways.
So here's a question for you.
Okay.
What do you think the future holds for global oil prices?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, with all these forces pulling in different directions, it's really hard to say.
Yeah.
But I think it's safe to say that it's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah.
And that we should all be paying attention.
For all the factors.
For all the factors. Yeah, not just the economic ones, but the political ones as well.
And that these global shifts might make their way to our own doorsteps.
Absolutely. I mean, we're already seeing that with gas prices.
Yeah.
But it could also affect things like inflation and economic growth.
Even international relations.
Exactly. So it's important to stay informed and to understand how these global trends could impact our lives.
All right. Well, I think that's a good place to end our deep dive for today.
Yeah, I think so.
We've covered a lot.
We have.
Really interesting stuff.
It is fascinating.
But that's it for us today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into oil markets and geopolitics.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.